Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Tax Lien and Tax Deed Investing 101, Reclaiming Government Systems to Grow Generational Wealth. I am your professor, Antoinette Apollon, aka Red Lotus Chick, and we are on week 4 of Tax Lien and Tax Deed Investing. And this week, we're going to be talking about fixing your personal credit. So we're going to be discussing understanding your credit scores and reading your credit reports, common credit repair strategies, as well as tools for monitoring and improving your credit. So here you're going to see pictured a pie chart. So on this pie chart, we're going to be looking at what makes up your entire FICO score. Now, I feel like credit is the most talked about subject. However, it's the most misunderstood subject. But here you can see on this chart what makes up your FICO score. So you can see that it's 30% how much you owe or your utilization, 35% your payment history, 10% the types of credit that you have, like whether it's a revolving line of credit or an installment loan. Then you also have 10% with new credit accounts and how frequently you're opening up accounts, and then 15% makes up your overall length of your credit history. So these are the things that make up your FICO score. Just a little note, your FICO score, there are different algorithms or different versions of the FICO scoring model, but unfortunately and fortunately, people get confused about this. All of them are your credit score, okay? So lenders can use different algorithms or different versions of the FICO scoring model to come up with your FICO score. This is something that I feel like is not explained enough and leads to a lot of confusion when it comes to people's FICO scores. And then there's also the Vantage scoring model, which is largely known as an educational score. I have seen it gain traction within the last couple of years, and lenders are actually starting to use it to actually qualify people for lending. But for the most part, the FICO scoring model is what lenders use in order to qualify you for credit. And on top of that, they're primarily using the FICO 8 scoring model. We are up to the FICO 10 scoring model, but basically when a new model comes out, that means that companies will have to go and change all of their systems, which a lot of times they don't do. It's one of the primary reasons why the FICO 2 scoring model which was one of the original FICO scoring models, is still largely used as the mortgage lending scoring model because the mortgage lenders don't want to update their systems. So anywho, you have the FICO scoring model and the Vantage scoring model, but for the most part, the FICO scoring model is going to be the model that is used to qualify you for things like loans and credit cards and your home mortgage. Now on to how to read your credit report. It's pretty simple. If you're getting a 3 bureau report, you're going to have Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, and then you can double check the data across all 3 bureaus to make sure that the data is accurate, whole, complete, and correct. So you'll see like the date the credit report was pulled, your name, and this is very important to look out for different versions or variations of your name, because really you should only have one name on your credit report, right? Any other name is technically incorrect. Unless you went by, let's say if you got married and you changed your name, then you will have the also known as, and of course make sure that is correct as well. And then your addresses. Even though your addresses don't impact your credit score, they can be tied to negative and outdated accounts. So this is something that's super easy to update, but has a very large impact on your credit repair journey. And then lastly, you'll see employers and where employers are listed. So you can have only your most up-to-date information on your credit report. Moving forward, and we're going to continue on to how to read your credit report. You'll see like your total open accounts, the total amount of accounts that you have, total open accounts, your closed accounts, if you have any delinquent, derogatory, or collections accounts, your overall balances and payments. And then if you have public records, which is most likely going to be any kind of bankruptcies, you might see something in that area. And then lastly, you will see inquiries and how many inquiries you have on your credit report. So when you get this information, what you want to do is pay very close attention to open dates, close dates, codes, and comments. Any kind of variation across the board, like any information that's not consistent across the board, is something that you need to look into, because technically speaking, companies are supposed to be reporting this information directly to the credit bureaus. Yes, but that's not actually what happens. the information gets reported to a secondary bureau, and then the secondary bureau reports it to the big three: Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. So sometimes you'll notice just different things on your credit report, or things that are not the same. For example, if you have the collections or the charge-off date might vary. The account type might vary. So is the account open or closed? Different comments like the last date that it was active, that might vary. But understand that each one of these line items that you see on your credit report, it is a code that has to be put in. And based off of that information, you can go through and highlight anything that is not the same and dispute it based off of its accuracy. Okay, we're going to get into the actual credit repair aspects. Like, everybody knows to send a dispute letter, right? But what does that mean? What should the letter say? What are you disputing? You can dispute based off of the grounds that the information is not correct. If one credit bureau is reporting that your date of last payment was on a certain date, and another credit bureau is reporting that it's on a different date, that information is not consistent. So you can dispute based off of that alone. Credit repair is putting the proof of burden on credit bureaus. And credit bureaus are the ones who are held to the law that if they are going to be reporting this information, that the information is complete, whole, and accurate. Okay. There are tips and tricks, but I can't get into all of that in this video. But basically, I want you guys to know that you can send letters to dispute the accuracy, the timeliness. If an account is not yours, you can send a dispute letter. If there's a authorized user account on your account that's no longer serving you, you can say, hey, this account is not mine. Technically, it's not yours. You're an authorized user, so that they can remove that off of your credit report. If there are collections, you can send and dispute to the collections companies directly to ask them to validate the information. And it has to be 100% accurate in order for them to report that information. And guess what? A lot of times it's not. These companies are not selling whole entire portfolios with all of your information. Once they write off that debt, they sell the debt in a bulk package, if you will, with sparse information. And a lot of times collections agencies don't even have all of the information that they are legally supposed to have in order to be reporting negative information about you to the credit bureaus. These are some ways that you can get negative or derogatory things removed from your credit by disputing based off of the accuracy, timeliness, completeness of the information. You can use different tools for monitoring your credit. There are a lot of free options, like Experian offers a free option where you can get your Experian credit report and credit score every month. The long and the short of it is your credit report has to be positioned in a way that you tell the lender what it is that they are looking for. Okay, so we have to be savvy when it comes to our credit report and what is being reported on there so that we can position ourselves to get maximized funding. And if you're looking to repair your credit to buy, let's say, your first home, cool, get your first home. But if you are trying to position your credit in order to get business funding, that takes a little bit more nuance, right? That's when you're really going to want to optimize your credit profile so that when lenders see your credit report, that you are fitting their borrower profile. That is the key, okay? We're going to get into business funding on week 5, but essentially what we need to do, if you haven't already started to repair your credit, here are just like 2 really easy tips, and they really have nothing to do with sending letters. If you look at your credit report and you are over 30% utilized on any credit card, that means that if you have a credit limit of $1,000 and 30% of $1,000 would be $300. Okay, so if your limit is over $300 or being reported over $300, that is hurting your credit score. You're going to need to bring that utilization down to under 30%. That in itself can drastically help to improve your credit score, because at 30%, you're actually neutral. You're not gaining points, but you're not losing points. Above 30%, you are actually losing points on your credit score. And under 30%, between 5 to 10%, they call that like the golden standard. If your utilization is between 5 to 10%, you will see your credit score drastically improve as the months progress. We would have to do an entirely different class on the FICO scoring model, because these are things that people don't tell you, that your FICO score, the algorithm is actually tracking your behavior, and that there's a difference between events and behaviors on your credit reports. But that's another topic for another day. If you want basic credit repair tips, then you can join my free community and grab the credit repair mini course. The second tip that I was going to say that doesn't involve sending letters, I talked about paying down your utilization, is to ask your credit card companies to increase your credit limits. Just that alone is going to impact your utilization. And your utilization is 35% of your score. It's the biggest chunk of your score. You just by doing those two things alone, you might be able to see an improvement on your score. Now, if you have a lot of derogatory things, late payments, bankruptcies, charge-offs, that's definitely a contender. You would be a great person to join the Red Lotus Prep Elite community, because we have courses in that community to fix all of those things. I'm talking about removing student loans, removing late payments, removing bankruptcies. It's all in the elite community. So if you guys want more content like this, be sure to comment below. And your homework for this week is in the discussion board. I just want you to pull your credit report and say, hey, what is the thing that is impacting your credit score the most? That's what I want you to determine. What is the thing that is impacting your credit score the most? Based off of what we discussed today, you should be able to read your credit report and say, oh, okay, now I can see what's hurting me. Hey, are collections hurting me? Hey, is utilization hurting me? I want you to determine what is hurting your score the most, because once you determine that, then you can figure out how to fix it. All right. And then next week we will be discussing business credit. So I will see you back here for week 5. All right. Bye, guys.